All right. Hi, guys. This is my first Zoom class, so bear with me if there's some technical issues. With that said, I'm JC, like Stacy introduced me. I work for the Digital History Project at the library, so a lot of this scanning things in, organizing a lot of photos, describing and naming those photos is kind of my job that I do every day. So I have a handle on this, and I've learned a few things along the way. So if you have any questions at any time, you can go ahead and unmute yourself and jump in. That's completely fine. Or else Stacy will be keeping an eye on the chat for me, and she'll jump in with any of your questions from the chat. So just feel free to put them in at any time, and I'll answer as we go. And of course, at the end, we'll have a little bit of a talk to answer any last questions. It won't take the full hour. I don't have enough slides for that, but if you want to ask questions at the end, there's going to be plenty of time. All right, I see a few more people coming in. So just to reiterate, like Stacy said, we are recording. So if you aren't comfortable showing up, you can go ahead and leave your camera off and we won't see you for those new people. And I'm going to start sharing my screen. I can decide. All right. And some of you may have heard of Marie Kondo. Okay. And can you now see the PowerPoint? Okay, perfect. So Marie Kondo, if you aren't aware, is she's someone who really knows how to organize, and she's got a show on Netflix that she has done, and what she's well known for is that instead of focusing on what you're getting rid of, you focus on what you're keeping. So that's kind of the thing I want everybody to keep in mind today. When you're thinking about getting rid of photos, you don't necessarily have to get rid of anything. We're just trying to focus on the ones that you like and want to keep, so that all those extra ones aren't distracting from those. That's why you're getting rid of them. And I am going to keep looking at my notes. So if I look down, I'm trying to remember what I need to say. So as we go through this, I know we're all doing it online, but if you could, what helps me is picturing just a scatter of photos printed out in front of me, just trying to weed through those and setting them into the different piles based on what I'm doing. So that's kind of the idea here, if that helps you visualize. So let's begin. So we are going to do this as a step process. Marie Kondo does it in kind of a similar way. This is a little bit different because it is online and we don't want to lose anything. While you're doing your physical photos, you obviously, if you set it to the side, it's not gone forever. But with digital photos, if you delete something, you might not get it back, depending on how you deleted it. So there's a couple extra steps in here just to make sure that like no accidents happen, because I've done that before. All right, so step one, we're gonna get everything into one place, and then we'll back it up temporarily to make sure you don't accidentally lose anything. We'll sort it a little bit, and then we'll start doing the delete process and getting rid of all the extra stuff. Then you'll permanently store it and have it organized how you like it, so that in the future you can share it pretty easily. Like if you have vacation photos you want to send to somebody, you can do that right away by looking at that folder. And then we'll talk about how to maintain it by repeating. So before we get started with the steps of organizing, I'm actually going to do a little demonstration with, sorry, I'm trying to like change over, with how to use some of the software that I'm talking about. So here is Windows Explorer on like a regular PC. I don't have a Mac computer, so if you have a Mac and you have questions about it, we can talk about that at the end. I can send you some resources. But for the default, this is like a pretty typical photo viewer that you would have on your phone even. So you can kind of, well, not necessarily on your phone, but there's going to be similar ideas here. So
we're still seeing your PowerPoint. Oh, there
okay.
It just was slow. Thank you.
It was just taking a while. Okay. All right. So yeah, I have, this is how I chose to view my photos. We'll talk a little bit later about the different options, but just so you know what I'm talking about later, this is going to be one way to look at them. So here's all of my photos. I did a project where I was taking pictures of the Herky statues. So some things I'll talk about are selecting multiple ones. So let's say this is the photo I like, and this is the only one I want to keep. So I can do this, and then I can right click and delete. So that's one way to select multiple. And another thing is the difference between right-clicking and left-clicking. So right-clicking is going to pull this up, and left-clicking is just going to select something. So that's what I'm saying when I'm saying the right-click versus left-click. And also we can create new folders. So that's a right-click, and then you can add a folder or any of these. And then when you pull that up, you can rename it. So you can do something like that. And if it's a picture, you can right click again, click rename. And do things like that. So there's a little bit of navigation there. These are going to really help you for when you're sorting. And then when you're viewing, you can double click it and it'll usually pop up with the Windows photo viewer if you're on a PC. And then from there you can see the picture larger. Another thing to keep an eye on is making sure, you want to make sure that you have it to where you can see these icons. Oh, here it is. So in this bottom corner here, if you can see my cursor in the bottom right, you can see something as a list, which helps if you want this information, or you can see it as a thumbnail where you can see the actual picture. So if you have any questions as I'm talking about how to do things in this program when you're looking at your photos, please let me know along the way and I'll switch back to this and show you guys if you have any concerns about how to do something. So that's amazing. Yeah.
Back a couple screens, I think you said, and when I double click on this, and then I didn't hear the rest of it.
I didn't quite double click on it because it would go out to a different window, but I'll show you. So
okay,
it's going to be delayed because I have to switch what I'm sharing. So actually let me share my whole screen so you can see like this bottom bar and everything. Okay, so when I double click on Herky, did you see the window pop out?
Yeah.
So you can see him bigger. So that's what happens for me when I double click, because this is my main thing that I use, and it usually is going to be what shows up for most people. Yeah.
Okay.
I have it set to dark mode. Yours might be white on the border instead of black. I have it this way so I can see borders when I'm like cropping things. So you can change that in the settings and do all kinds of stuff. But yeah, if you have any specific questions about that, I can go through it. But this way you can also go side to side, and I can see here that I like this Herky's kind of tilted and I don't like that, so I can come up here and just delete it because I didn't like that one. And you can go through and do it that way too. And this really helps because you see how he's like upright and then he's kind of to the side. I don't like that, so I'm going to delete that one too. So that's one way to go through your photos pretty quickly. Does that help with the question? Okay. So any more questions about the photo viewer while I'm on this screen? Okay, I will go back to my PowerPoint. And we'll continue. Okay. So like I said, if you have anything you want me to demonstrate in that window, I can do that too later on. So step one, we're going to start with finding everything that you wanted to organize and getting it all in the same place. So getting your ducks in a row, basically. All right. So digital photos are kind of easy to spread out and have in a million different places and just not even know you have them there. So the biggest step I would say is finding them and getting them in one place. So if you have a digital camera, that would be plugging it into your computer and putting those on your computer. You probably have a ton on your phone, maybe some on your iPad, all that kind of thing. And if people have sent you a bunch of photos, like over email, those are probably saved to your computer too. So just try to brainstorm all the places that you remember getting photos or taking photos on, and then put them all in the same place. So The way that I recommend doing this is putting them on a laptop or a desktop computer if you can. If not, something like an iPad with a bigger screen would be good as well. Or worst case scenario, well, not worst case, but another option is your smartphone. With the smartphone, you want to be careful because with my phone, when I delete something and if the cloud updates, it's gone. I can't get it back. So just be careful. If you can do it on a computer, that's a really good option. So that would be using like a cable, like a USB cord to plug that device into your computer and then moving the files over or something like that. Or if all of that seems a bit too much, you can always just go in each separate device, like on your computer, organize those photos, and then go on your phone and organize those photos, and they would just stay on their own devices. So that's the biggest thing to think about here is where are my photos? All right, let me see. And then it's good to notice what you're seeing. So that could be, so I say digital photos, but you could also have a ton of files. So my phone has PDFs, so like different files that I've downloaded too. And I did try to organize those when I was doing this myself. So just kind of notice all the things you have. It could be anything JPEG, PNG, TIFF, things like that are going to be, sorry, I'm hearing something going on. So those things are going to be pictures. So the JPEG, the PNG, the TIFF, those are all just pictures, just different versions. So it doesn't really matter too much. But then the other thing is going to be PDF, docs, Word documents, all that kind of thing. Those are going to be a separate organizational issue, I guess. So those you'd want to handle differently because you can't see them very well, and they're going to be saved for different reasons. They'd be like if you have your lease online, you have a PDF of your lease, that's going to go somewhere else than your vacation photos. So just keep in mind what type of things you're seeing and just focus on one type. So we're focusing on photos today, but feel free to ask questions about documents.
So what's the difference between those?
Between which?
The JPEG, the PNG, and the TIFF?
Yeah, so the JPEG and the PNG are very similar. They're just regular photo formats. It's just one is like more reliable than the other, but it's only like a slight bit more reliable. So it doesn't really matter too much. But the TIFF is going to be something, the TIFF is what I handle every day. It's a very large version of the photo that holds a lot of information about it so that you can put it in one place and it won't like lose that information over time. That's more for like archival work that I do with like old photos that we never want to lose. But for your family photos, just the JPEG and the PNG is fine. So I guess for this, if you do see a lot of TIFF endings on your photos, those are going to take up a lot of space. So just be aware when you're looking for where you want to store these in the long run that you're going to need a lot of space for those. But that's the only thing that you really need to know. Yeah, and was there another question I heard? No? All right, feel free to put them in the chat too. Let's see. Okay, yeah, so just keeping an eye on those formats so you know what you're working with. And then kind of as you know what you're working with, you can think of groupings that you like. So like I said, if you have like documents like your lease, like certificates or things like that, you can put them to one side and then all your like vacation photos and all of that to the other side. So you can start that sorting process in your mind already. And then choosing what you're going to use to look at them. So Windows Photo Viewer is kind of the default that I like to use, like I showed you earlier. That's what's going to pull up your photos when you just double click them on Windows. So that is a thing. And then on Macs, like I said, I'm not as familiar with that, but they do have their own version of just like a Finder, a photo viewer type of thing that has the same actions as what I showed. just like in different places. So again, if you need that information, I can send out a link on how to use the Mac version. And yeah, so we'll go ahead and, so now that you have everything together, we want to make sure that you don't lose it as you're going through. So we'll take that folder of things, because I'm actually going to switch back so you know what I'm talking about. So for a temporary backup, you would want to take your folder. So I have all of these that I want to go through. I'm going to select all of them like I showed earlier. Right click, copy them, and then right click again and paste. And you can do this in small batches as you're working. And it does label it copy, which is really helpful. So now I have all these copies, so if I delete something, then it'll still be there in the other version. So I can just go ahead and copy it from the backup onto my folder. So it is a little bit redundant, but it's completely okay to have this if you have the space on your computer. I think for me personally, it's worth it. Other people may find it to be too much to just copy everything. You don't have to do this step. I just think it's safe because I know myself and I know that I accidentally delete stuff all the time. So let me switch back to my PowerPoint. So that's an example of doing the temporary backup. You can do that just on your computer like that really quickly. Or if you want to be extra safe, you can put them on the cloud. So that would be a Google Drive, an Outlook Photos. I think Apple has a Photos app as well. So you can just copy them onto that. And then at the end, we're just going to delete those because we'll have our permanent storage already. And when that step comes, I'll show you how to just quickly delete them. So yeah, does anybody have questions about the temporary backups folder? Like it says here, you'll want to label it backups or just leave that copy on the end of it so that you know it's not the one that you're working on. So any questions? Okay. All right, step 3 is sorting. So this is probably what you all envisioned when you were applying for this class, the actual organization part. So we're gonna find a place for everything and have everything in its place. So anything that obviously should be deleted, you can just start getting rid of it as you're sorting. So like in my folders, I was putting my Herky project in a Herky project folder, and you saw me delete the Herky that was like kind of tilted to the side. So I didn't want that one. It was pretty obvious that was not staying. So I just deleted it right away. That's the kind of photo that you can start getting rid of. So the thumb photo bombs, you can get rid of those, the blurry ones. Anything that you don't even know what the pictures of, you can start getting rid of those as you sort them into their different folders. And as you sort, make sure it makes sense to you. So for me, I go more event categories, so like holidays, family, pets, as you saw with those other folders. And then when I have a lot in that folder, I'll make another one inside that has different categories. So let me switch back over and show you. Here we have holidays, and you can see 2 very different types. So here I have my pumpkin carving, and then here I have my Halloween makeup. So I can do new folder, pumpkin carving, and then I will
just right click for the folder.
So you'll want to be on this white space here, and then you'll right click, new, and folder, and then this one will be for Halloween.
Okay.
And then I'll go ahead and take all these, and you can just drag them over here, and they'll all go in there. Yeah. And then the same with the pumpkin carving. So the way that I do it, that makes sense for me, is folders within folders. And if you'd rather look at everything all at once, you don't have to separate them like that. But so I went holidays, and then these 2 folders in there. And then when I get more, because this is only some of my photos, I didn't want to overwhelm you with my thousands of photos. I'll have like Halloween and then Halloween makeup, pumpkin carving, and then like Christmas and family Christmas or tree decorations, things like that. So that's your sorting process. And as you're doing it, you can look and see some of these maybe aren't the best quality. So like this one's really bright and then this one's not as bright. So I can tell that by just looking and then just get rid of that one. So that's what you're doing in this process. You're getting rid of a lot of the low quality stuff and just getting it into its own areas. And let me go back to my PowerPoint. All right, so yep, we're sorting things. We're doing folders within folders, if that makes sense to you. And we're separating out. So if there's anything that you know for sure won't stay in the same place as everything else, you can put it somewhere else completely. So that'll be like your documents. If you have like a PDF just somewhere in there, you can toss it in a different folder and then deal with it later. So just kind of like prioritizing things as well. So just general rough sorting there. And I'm just gonna check my notes. Yeah, all right. So next we're gonna do weeding. So that means that we're pulling out anything that we don't want. So this is where everything's in its own folders and the folders are named, and you get to go in, and if you have 5 pictures of the same, you know, you're on a bridge on a vacation and you have your 2 family members and you have 5 photos of the same pose of them, this is where you really go in and look side by side and make sure how many of those you want to keep and then delete the rest. So this is where you're doing the more narrow deleting everything. So you're making the hard decisions. And I want to remind you, like at the beginning I said with Marie Kondo, you're not trying to get rid of things. You're trying to find the things that bring you the most joy and then just removing the rest. So if a picture doesn't quite spark anything with you, she says spark joy, then you can go ahead and get rid of it. Or if you really are feeling regretful about deleting it, you don't have to. There's plenty of space. Cloud storage is very large, so unless you have a ton of photos, you should be able to keep anything you want. So we're just focusing on the good things and keeping those, and then just getting rid of some things. So here are some examples you'd get rid of. Things that you took a picture of and you can't remember what it was, or what it was for. So sometimes if I'm parking like at Six Flags and I have no idea how to get where I'm going, I'll go ahead and take a picture of the number and letter where I'm parked, and then I'll go on my way, and then I'll come back. And after that day, I don't need that picture anymore, but it tends to stay in my phone for months afterward. So we're looking for those things. Also, people in places that don't hold any meaning. I have pictures of my old apartment because there are some maintenance issues, so I have pictures of that to prove to the landlord. I don't need those anymore. I don't live there anymore, so I can get rid of that. And a comment on the people. So you don't have to remove all the photos of someone that you don't talk to anymore. It's okay to keep those, but you can put them in a separate place. So like if you have an ex-partner, you can put them all in its own little neat folder and then put it to the side. So you don't have to delete all of these. Like I said, anything that you would regret deleting, you can keep. All right. And another example, yeah, so that's pretty much it. Just anything that you don't use anymore or wouldn't care to see anymore. Get rid of those.
JC?
Yeah.
There was a chat question about finding duplicates,
Mm-hmm.
and how to do that. Is the answer kind of just that they'll be named similar things and they should show up next to each other anyway?
Yeah, so they should show up next to each other usually. Like all my Herky photos are like off by a number because they were on my camera. So they're all next to each other. The other thing is when you are doing the sorting, that's a good way to get all the similar photos together. Like if you take a lot of photos on Halloween, then you have them all there because you put them in the Halloween folder. So then you can kind of see the duplicates there. And you also might have duplicates from different devices, in which case they'll be named the same thing. And you'll get like a parentheses 1 for moving them over. So it'll be right next to each other. So it'll organize itself to show you them next to each other by name or by subject when you're sorting. So this is kind of a long process if you have a lot of photos because you're going through all of them individually and putting them in their place. But then that does give you that big picture view where you can see, I have 10 photos of this pumpkin. I don't want 10 photos of this, and then you can delete the duplicates. So yeah, does that help with that question? Okay. All right, were there any other chat questions?
There's another one about reducing the size of a photo, but I feel like that's a good one for the end.
Yeah, I will, can you remind me at the end, and I'll do a demonstration on adjusting some things like that.
Sure.
All right, so yeah, so the pull the weeds is the second largest step. The first one I mentioned was getting everything together because that's a big, I don't even know where all my photos are, so that's a big step. This one is the second big one because you're going through every single folder that you made and just making those decisions on, do I need this? Do I want to get rid of it? What'll make me happiest? So then once you've done that, you have all the photos you're going to keep and you're happy with those. Once you're at that point, you want to reassess what you started. So you can always go back and repeat these steps. A lot of ones you'll repeat are the sorting step. So making sure that everything's in the right folder where you can find it. And also the weeding step here where you're going to delete stuff that you just don't want anymore. So you can repeat those. Like I said, this is where you go back to sorting. You make sure all your photos are in the right folders. And also you'll start to rename. So I showed how to rename with the right click. I can demonstrate it again if you'd like. But with that, you're going to want to put in good names. Good names is kind of subjective, but names that make sense. So if you look at that name and you can't see the thumbnail of the photo or what it is, you still know what's in that photo. So I would say, I did one earlier when I was demonstrating. Is it back on the folder?
Yep.
Okay, great. So I can't see if I'm doing it right. So back here in the Herky project, this is Chrome Herky. So I named him Chrome Herky. So things like that. And if you have multiples of one thing, like I have, I can't remember what this Herky's name is. I'm just going to call him Kill Turkey because I can't remember. I'm going to look it up and rename it like when I say this, but I can say Kill Turkey from afar or just far, and then Kill Turkey close. And you can do things like that to make them a little bit different. Or if all else fails, if you have a lot of duplicates that you don't want to delete, that's fine. You can just put the name, so like Chrome Herky, 1, 2, 3, and on, just to know that there are going to be more of that. So yeah, renaming with relevant names is really helpful with this.
Stacy?
Yeah.
Before you change the view, there were a couple of chats. One is there a way to get the original date from the digital photo? If you want to show that, and then I'll ask the second one.
Okay, so you should be able to right click, go to properties down at the bottom, and then it'll say, so modified April 20th. So this was back in April that I did this project, and so that's the day that I put it on my phone. So that's where you can see that, and then it also has other information like how I've been looking at it today and all of that. So yeah, this is about when I put it on the computer 3 hours ago because I did not prepare very soon. So yeah, that's how you can see.
I don't know about the others, but we couldn't see the pop-up window. It's
Oh, okay.
the photo program.
Yeah, let me just switch to the screen. My camera like blocks the top edge, so I'm like trying to see. Okay. Okay. All right, can you see the folder?
Yep.
And then can you see when I right click?
Yep.
Properties and the pop out?
There we go.
Okay, yeah, so this under modified here, the earliest date is going to be the safest on when you took it, and I did take it on the 20th of April. So I remember because it was the day before this project was due. So you can see that's when I took it. You can also see when I put it on the computer, which was 3 hours ago, and some other information like where it is, photos from phone, card camera, Herky project. And then that it is a JPG, a JPEG file up here. We had some questions about that earlier. And then I can change what it opens with. So it opens with my Photos software. You can change it to, like if you want to look at it through Paint, Adobe, Photoshop. I have Photoshop on here, Notepad, all that kind of stuff. You can do that here. Windows Media is going to be for videos and things, so keep that one in mind. It's really good for that. And yeah, that's some more details. Were there more questions in the chat?
Yeah, the other question, Lucy had a great question. I have some duplicates. If I am sending things to a folder, the camera seems to save the photo in my folder, but also still in the camera pictures. How to avoid that?
Oh, that is kind of difficult. So is this like on a smartphone, you take a picture and then it saves to 2 folders on your phone?
Lucy, if you want to unmute yourself.
It's just like if I have, I take a whole bunch of pictures and then I'm going to send it to a folder, and I'll check send to, and it does send it to the folder, but it also leaves the original in there. Is that always going to happen? And what if I delete the original? Does that delete the one in the folder too?
Is that on your smartphone?
Yeah.
Okay. I want to say, I don't think you can change that. It's kind of a safety feature because it's like the same on here. If I'm going to copy this and put it in a completely different area of my computer, it'll leave the originals just like with your phone. But I want to say, so you can't change that, but if you delete the originals, I don't think it will delete your copies. Okay. And the best way to do that, I would say, is to just take a picture of something in front of you and then just try it out. But so when I said earlier that being careful doing this on your phone is because your backups are on the cloud. Like I have Verizon, and so my Verizon cloud updates sometimes, and the photo's gone after I delete it. But on your actual phone, between the different folders, it shouldn't talk to each other like that and delete it. You have to like initiate that. Okay. So yeah, I would definitely try it. Like I don't want you to lose photos because of me, so just try it. But I think it should be okay to just delete the originals.
Can I jump in?
Excuse me, but isn't it if you right click, you can either copy or move?
Yeah.
And so if you copy, it will stay in both folders, but if you move it, it will go to the new folder.
For a computer, yes, but for the smartphone, like Lucy was using, it's a little bit different.
Okay. Yeah. I didn't realize she was using
that is important to talk about with the computer. You can do that where you can move, or you can, It's not quite showing here, but yeah.
And can I hop in? Lucy, are you using an Android or an iPhone?
Android.
Okay. Mm-hmm. For anyone who has Macs, when I plug in my phone to my Mac laptop, it gives me the choice of whether I want to delete everything that I've imported or leave them on my phone. Mm-hmm. So if you are a Mac user, you could play around with that option.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, and if anyone is a Mac user, I know Stacy has some familiarity, so if anyone has a Mac, you are the, like, what is it called? Professional? You're the authority on Macs. I don't know Macs. So if anyone wants to chime in about Macs, feel free. Yeah, were there any more questions in the chat, especially about the Windows Explorer?
Nope, I think we're good for now.
Okay, so I was talking about your final sorting and your renaming. So just rename things that make sense to you, put them in folders as they make sense to you. Some people like just a full page of photos. Some people like 3 folders and like a little bit of photos in those folders. So it just depends. And you can try things out and change it. If the next day you're like, this doesn't look right, you can change the whole organization scheme. It's just so that you can find things. So like I said earlier, I find things by topic, not by time. I don't know what day it is, so I don't know when things happen, so I'm not gonna find them that way. So I'll go topic, and then I can go a little bit into date after that. And let me get back to my PowerPoint. Okay, so yeah, so at this point, you've gone through, you've rest sorted, you've gotten rid of the things you don't want, you've resorted, renamed, and everything is where it should be and how it should be to make sense for you. So we're gonna store it. I should say at this point, you can delete those folders that you copied over. So I'm just gonna go back. I keep going back to this, but hopefully it's helpful. So here again, I have the copy versions. So you noticed earlier I was renaming things only in this folder that I'm keeping. And so now this one hasn't really changed or done anything. It's just there for safety. So I can take it and just delete it. I just hit the delete button. So take it, right click. That is my copy. Yes, that is my copy. I don't want to delete the original. And delete. So we can do that at this point and just get rid of the temporary backup. And from there, we're going to do permanent storage. So let's talk about your options. So I have here, your home is a living space, not a storage space. So you don't have to keep everything. You can just put it away somewhere and focus on everything else. So I like this comic here. You're pretty new to cloud storage, aren't you? Because he's trying to catapult it up into the sky. Cloud storage is a miracle, but it's not that much of a miracle. So you don't want to have too much to put on cloud storage if that's what you're using. So your options for permanent storage are just on their computer, a folder like we've been doing, and then you put your photos back on your phone or the other device that you want them on. So for me, I'm probably gonna leave some photos on my desktop and then just like put everything back on my phone because that's the main thing I send photos from. I text them to people and all that kind of stuff. But your other options are an external hard drive. If you have just a huge amount of photos, that's going to be more for like people doing archival work. You know, you're scanning a bunch of stuff in that large TIFF format we talked about earlier. You're going to want a heavy duty storage device, but typically you don't really need that. Other external options are going to be your USB thumb drive, things you can plug into the computer, put them on there, and then store it in a safe place. But those can get lost or damaged, so just be careful if you do that. Same with like a DVD that you just put files onto. It could get damaged or lost, so just be careful if you do choose that route. And the final option is the cloud. So that's Google, iCloud, Dropbox, all that kind of stuff. I use Google Drive, and you just can copy, you take your huge folder of photos and you just upload it to Google, and it has plenty of space, so you should be able to have like any normal amount of photos. And normal, I mean like a few thousand, like what I have, will probably fit on there pretty well. So if you have, if your email address ends with gmail.com, you have a Google Drive, you can log into it. If you need instructions for that, please let me know. I can demonstrate that at the end too. Yeah, and you can just drop all your photos there, forget about them, get them off your desktop and put them back on your phone if that's what you want. So, and I have here just reiterating the organization. Make sure it looks the same in your permanent storage so you still know where to find things if you lose something. So consistency is key, because if you have it under a different name on the cloud and a different name on your phone, you're not going to find it. So just copy everything exactly. Yeah, and I'm trying to think. Yeah, if you have any specific questions about storage options or the cloud, please do let me know. It's pretty much just another place to put things. It looks the same as your computer almost. Yeah. And displaying. So now that you have everything, you can actually find it, you can share it with everybody. So there's a bunch of different options, you know, posting on social media, cloud services. One thing that I did want to mention is digital photo frames are kind of a cool thing. Some have an email address you can send to it, and it just rotates through your pictures. So you can have like the kids, the grandkids, the family like rotating through on that, and then you'll see them throughout the day. And then another thing, when we do open back up, because we will hopefully have the library open again, you can come into the DML and print out your photos if you want to put them in physical frames. So yeah.
And by DML, that stands for Digital Media Lab.
Thanks. I like abbreviations. Yeah, so I had something else I was going to mention about displaying, but I forget. So if I remember, I will let you know. And after you've done all this, you can always go back and do it again. The main point of this is to go through and just do the heavy duty, hard to approach, organize everything. And then after that, it's smooth sailing. You're just going to keep them all in the same kind of area. And as you go new places and take new pictures, just keep in mind which ones you want to keep and put those in your permanent storage, and then just clean up your phone as you go. The good thing is you can, right when you come home, you can kind of get rid of the thumb photo bombs and the blurry pictures. And then later on, like a month down the line, if you want to relive the memories, you can go back and reorganize and kind of do the weeding then. So you can put them all in the right folders and everything. So it's a good way to kind of relive things. And the good thing is once you have a system that works for you, the folders in the right folders and a good storage space that you know how to use, it's just easy sailing from then on. You just have to maintain it. So yeah, you can always go through these steps again multiple times. So any questions or demonstrations you guys would like?
Thank you.
There is a question in the chat about how to transfer photos from a text message to the computer.
Okay. Yeah, so Android or iPhone? Or can I can just explain Android and stop me if it's an iPhone, and then I will be confused. So
Virginia's answering iPhone.
iPhone? Oh.
Why don't you explain Android first, and I will jump in with any alterations needed.
Okay, yeah, that sounds good. So typically with most phones, it's a touchscreen, so you can, is it a iPhone, smartphone? Duh. So iPhones and other smartphones are gonna have the ability to press and hold on a picture or just tap on it, and then it'll give you options to download it, or else it'll show in your chat history in another menu. But the easiest is to tap and hold and then save or save to phone, or else it'll have like a 3-dot thing that you can do. If I'm thinking right. Is it the same with iPhone?
Yeah, that's pretty much the same.
Yep, and once it's on your phone, it's going to be in your normal gallery or photo viewer or pictures, however it's labeled in your phone. And from there, you wanted to put it on the computer from a text?
Yeah.
Yeah. So from there, you have quite a few options actually to transfer photos from your computer or from your phone to a computer. So the one that I use the most is Save to Google Drive. And that's usually with just like a handful of photos. Like when I'm doing a class and I take a picture for the class and I need it on my email, I'll just save it to my Google Drive. That's an option in your photo gallery that you can select a photo, and then it's usually like a 3-dot symbol. Should I Google that symbol to show people? Because that's an important symbol. I don't know. Okay, but it's like a 3-dot symbol that'll have you give options to share it. So option 1, upload to Google Drive. Option 2, email it to yourself if your email is connected to your phone. Option 3, plug your phone into a computer using a cable, and then you can go into it like it's a USB drive and find that photo and copy it onto your computer. It's hard to like explain without demonstrating.
Mm-hmm.
I was a little bit distracted because I was reading the chats. So Jason,
I wrote that. I thought my friend, who I think is in this class, had a question, but I didn't know how else to ask her, to ask it.
so I just want to say that if I wanted to save a texted photo, I would do what JC said and save it into my photos on my phone, and then I would email it to myself. So I would write a new email and attach it and send it.
I wonder if I can show you my phone and do this. Do you think that would work, just like trying to show my phone to the camera?
Yeah,
Okay.
No clue, we'll see what happens.
So this is my gallery. It's screenshots from a game on my phone, so don't judge me. So there's my gallery, and if I click on a photo and I'm looking at it, there's going to be this 3-dot symbol. Can you guys see that?
Mm-hmm.
So it's the 3 dots and the little arrow kind of.
Oh.
So when I click that, let me just make sure it comes up. It'll show me all of these apps that I can share it on. So for me, I'm gonna click this triangle here, which is the Google Drive. Or you can, if you're on Facebook on a browser, you can actually send it to someone or yourself using Facebook on your phone. Open up Facebook on your web browser, save the photo to your computer. There's a ton of different workarounds. So anything that you see on here that you can get to on your computer, so like Verizon Cloud, I can get there on my computer. Instagram, I can get there on my computer. And Gmail down here, I can email it to myself. So you'll pick one of those icons that you know you can get to on your computer too, send it to yourself or to someone else, or just save it to the drive like I said. So there's some options and some workarounds. And then as always, the end all be all is a physical cable to the computer, and you can definitely get it that way.
Can I jump in? I don't know if I'm going to be visible in the recording. This is on an iPhone. See if you can see this. It's the little square with the up arrow.
Should I stop screen sharing?
Yeah, that would be fine.
Okay. There we go. Oh, I can see the chat now.
So it's that little square and up arrow in the corner for me. And then it gives me options. If I can text it to someone that I frequently text, I can choose the apps, just like JC had, or I can do some more actions. So if you're an iPhone user, that's the little icon you should look for.
So I see in the chat a question about looking at photos on the Mac. I am right now getting that information, and I'm going to link it to the chat. And then we'll also be sending a follow-up email to everybody. And any links that I share or things like that, I can, we'll put in that email for you. That will send to all of your emails you registered with as a follow-up. So this is going to be information for the Mac. And I'll also look up a bunch more links and things that kind of help with all these demonstrations I've been doing. And then this class is recorded, so feel free to come back and take a look at it on our library channel if you don't remember how to do something that I did demonstrate. And then you can always email me. We'll include my email in the follow-up email, and you can reach out with any questions. I'm not like tech at the library, but I do enough of this stuff with my job that I can kind of try to answer.
Okay, there were 2 questions about the cloud. One of them is, what does the cloud look like? Can we have folders in iCloud, for example?
Yeah, so I'm not 100% on iCloud. I would show you my Google Drive. If I'd thought about it, I would have gone in and cleaned up, but I have a lot of personal information on there, so I don't want to open that up and give you my social security number. So on the Google Drive, you can do folders, and I'm 99.9% certain that iCloud has the same capabilities. So usually with most things like that, you can do that right click on the white space and add a new folder. So that's how you can create a folder pretty much everywhere. So any more cloud questions? I see some resizing and other photo viewing questions, which I will answer, but if there's anything else about the cloud, we can.
Yeah, there's one more cloud question. So Gavin asks, what do you do when your cloud is full and you're still adding photos on your phone? I then connect my phone to my computer, but my computer can find the new photos, but they show up on my phone. How do you manage when all your clouds are full?
Usually with the cloud, there's a lot of space, so it isn't typically full, but if you're saying that it is right now for you, there are a couple options. You can buy more space. That's an option if you want to do that. My cat is about to attack my fish. Hold on.
I'll just hop in with my opinion, and maybe others can share too. I would say that pausing and doing all of these actions on what you already have stored in the cloud is a good idea, because you might have duplicates in there or things that you don't really want anymore, and cleaning that out first could free up the space that you need. Back to you, JC.
Yeah, no, that's definitely, just make sure whatever's on there is definitely something that you want to keep. You don't want to purchase more space if you can just clear up some space. Another option is, I have multiple Gmail accounts, so I don't do this right now because I have a main one that I use, but you can easily do certain types of things on different, so you could have your documents on one Gmail account and your photos on a different Gmail account. But one thing I will say is, if you have so many photos that your cloud is full, I highly recommend investing in an external hard drive or something similar to that to store them, because that's, when you have that many photos, it signifies that that's kind of a trend. If it's not for work, then it's just something that's important to you. So you want to make sure you have plenty of space, reliable space for that. So yeah, I would definitely invest in external hard drives in that case.
Okay, should we catch the resizing questions? There's two different questions now. One is how to change the size of a photo for the ease of sending or uploading to a place that requires small sizes, which should also cover the first question, how to reduce the size of a picture in general.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so there's a couple ways to do that. I'm a little bit rusty. I haven't done it in a while. So I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen again. Let's just share this one so you guys might see yourselves for a second. I'm gonna, here we are. So we're gonna see Herky. Let's see, everybody pretty much should have Paint on their computers, I wanna say. So where's my open with? There, so open with, and I'm gonna do, let's do regular Paint, because that should be on most computers. So here we have, trying to remember. Oh, there we go. Okay, so most things like this, Paint 3D, any kind of photo editing thing, you'll have resize. So can you guys see my Paint window and everything? So here on resize, you can click that, and then you can kind of say how many pixels you want. So if I only want it like 400, you'll want to keep the maintain aspect ratio or any kind of like lock symbol like checked and intact, because this will make sure that you aren't like warping it and making it look funny. It'll keep the same ratio. So I wanted it let's say I want it 400 at the widest. So I'll do the bigger number as 400. I'll hit OK. And then there it is. It's gotten smaller. And that'll usually also reduce the overall size so that it'll be easier to upload. And then another thing while we're here is when you view it in the regular photo viewer or just the default thing on your computer, you can always look for this symbol here, which is your cropping symbol. So you can click that. And then for this is why I have this on dark mode, because I can see the edges really clearly. And then I can pull it up and say, I only want to see herky. I don't want to see any kind of dead grass anymore. And then save as a copy, which is really great because you don't have to copy it over. Well, you don't have to replace the original. You can keep the same name and then add, copy, and then save it. So that's cropping as well. So that's resizing and then cropping. Does that kind of help? All right, I'm gonna double check. Yep, so that should resize it well enough that you can upload it to a place that requires smaller sizes. I will say, once you do size it down, it's harder to go back. So if you do have to upload it somewhere that requires a smaller size, try to keep a larger copy like on your cloud or on your computer too, just to have a good size of it without having to mess with it or put it back. So yeah, and then one more tip, if you're doing a lot of photos, like you're putting them on the cloud, let me share again. You can select a handful, right click again, and then send to compressed zipped folder. So that's a way to like put it all into a smaller space and then upload it somewhere. And then there you can unzip it and then have all the photos. So that's another tip. That's usually like sending an email that has like too many things in it or uploading somewhere. It's a little bit easier. So yeah, there are some options.
I see that I missed a chat question. Is there a difference between Google Photos and Google Drive?
Yes, there is. So Google Photos is more of like a sharing and a store, or more like sharing and using as a photo viewer. I know a lot of people who really enjoy that program. I don't use it very much for me, but it's good for like creating slideshows. We did some retirement slideshows on there, collecting photos into albums and all of that kind of thing. So if you want to use it as more than just storage, definitely put them in Google Photos. That's a great way to view them and share them. It has more features specific to photos and sharing, and maybe even resizing on there. I'm not quite sure. I use Google Drive because when I have a photo, it's only there temporarily to put on my computer, or it's there for permanent storage. I'm going to put it there, I'm going to leave it there, and I'm going to use my photos elsewhere on my phone instead. So if you're more active on your computer or your iPad, Google Photos would definitely be a great option.
Yeah, Google Photos would allow for editing the pictures. Google Drive will not. It's really just a storage space.
Yeah, so some of the things I was showing, like resizing, cropping, rotating, that kind of thing would be great to try in Google Photos. And if anyone really wants, I can find a tutorial and send that in our follow-up email as well for the Google Photos.
I think the other thing Google Photos does is finds people and allows you to sort pictures by a person's face. So if you wanted to find all your pictures on one kid, I think Google Photos allows you to do that.
That's a great feature. Yeah, that probably helps the questions about duplicates that people were asking earlier. That would really help with that. So thanks for mentioning that feature. Yeah. Artificial intelligence is really advancing. It's kind of scary, but helpful. I'm surprised we actually hit the hour. Does anybody else have any questions? And anything, if there's anything specific that you want me to follow up on or have information on in the follow-up email, please go ahead and put that in the chat or let me know, and I'll make a note of it so that we can make sure that you have all that information going forward when you do sit down and do this for yourselves.
I would just like to say that, so I have thousands of photos that I need to take care of. And I'm sure I'm not the only one, because I've talked to a few people who signed up for this class who felt the need for it as much as me. The part where you recommend renaming every photo, I thought that is really gonna make a big difference for whether I decide something's worth keeping, because already I can tell that would change my behavior considerably. So I don't know if anybody else had something that stood out to them that they want to point out or share how they think this is going to go when they try it.
So I have just some experience. We took photos and I renamed them, and then we saved them to multiple drives, and we could no longer find the duplicates. So I'm actually not a fan of naming them. I'm a fan of letting the computer or the phone or whatever, the device, name it. Because then if you end up, like right now, I've got some saved on my internal memory, some saved on the phone, some saved on Google Drives, and we're actually trying to get all the photos in one place, and there are programs that will find the duplicates if they're named the same thing. And they might do it by properties as well, but I think it's easier if they're named the same thing.
Okay.
Can you sort by properties? Can you sort by the original date?
You can sort by date, you can sort by size as well.
But if I could sort by date, then a lot of the duplicates that have been renamed and backed up on other computers and then backed up on this one and saved on a hard drive and then backed up on, and I probably have multiple copies of the same thing and saved on different computers or drives at different times. But if I could sort them by the original date, that would at least get them close together so I could see the duplicates. Then I could start deleting.
Maybe we're related.
I guess maybe the answer is, if you're going to do this, so this is Marie Kondo says the same thing for organizing your house. You really want to do it kind of all in one big go, right? So if you're going to rename things, don't just sometimes rename them. Devote an afternoon to working on it.
Well, I could see putting them first into files, maybe by year is what I was thinking of, just to get started by year. And then if you want to do Christmas and pull out Christmas from every year and put that in a file, but get them all in files. And then if I want to name them or something, I could put that naming off for a while.
That's a great idea, though. I like that idea.
Yeah, I really recommend. I myself am not necessarily going to rename all of my photos. Pretty much everything in this is optional. If you only want to have like 4 folders, you sort everything into and don't rename anything, just so it all stays together. That does look kind of nice. Like, I don't know if you saw in my folder when I was renaming things, it bumped them down to the bottom. So all of the duplicate photos were separated once I renamed one of them. And I didn't like that. So it definitely is a very last step, and it's completely optional because I'm not quite sure how to sort by date and property in the photo view I was using, and I can find those tutorials for you. But doing that may be circumvented by not renaming, like you guys were saying. So yeah, that's a good comment. I think we have lost quite a few participants, but if anybody has any last minute questions, and I will include the Mac photo viewing tutorial, sorting by date / other properties tutorial, and maybe a couple other helpful links or like an article about Marie Kondo and sparking joy. I'll put that all in the follow-up email for you guys so that when you're doing this, you have some context.
Thank you.
Super helpful. Thank you very much.
Yeah,
Thank you, JC. Thank you, Stacy. Appreciate it.
All right. if there's no more questions, thanks everybody.
Oh, thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you. Have a good night.